Hello, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Let's finish up this case, because I'm pretty sure we're at the end of this. The point is, if you poison someone, there'd be no reason to then go and stab the person as well.
Hold it!
Perhaps you doubted the I actually can't read that word. Efficacy? Efficacy? Blah, blah, blah. Efficacy of the poison and sought to make sure your victim would die. That's horse stuff. What? What would be like pouring pepper on your Chinese ramen before you'd even taste it? Completely reckless. Oh, no, it might surprise you to learn that I am a bit of an impetuous pepper pourer as it happens. Once the victim had taken the poison, he would have been only minutes away from death. And yet, this man then proceeded to stab her in the back as well. There has to have been a good reason for that. If it was the reporter who gave the poison to Miss Brett, then clearly he must have done it prior to Ray entering the hut. Yes, that's undeniable. Between him leaving the hut and the victim being stabbed, there was one very crucial change in the situation. Sorry, what change? The reporter overheard the conversation between Ray and the Englishwoman. Yes, that's it. That's when Memorism first found out the exact nature of the poison he'd used. And he could be the key here. I'm actually not catching on. If the victim had unwittingly taken the poison already, the reporter would have had no reason to stab her. On the face of it, the logic seems entirely reasonable. But there's no question that this man was responsible for Miss Brett's murder. If we could think of a plausible explanation as to why he might have stabbed her, even after the poison, I'm sure that everything would drop into place. That's what we should be looking for. Yes, I agree. In order to do that, I should glean on them for more information. How do I go to court records again? There we go. Post-mortem report. Let's read this again. Let's kind of review our stuff. A single deep stab wound from behind, piercing a lung and resulting on a fatal hemorrhage. Death would have occurred within minutes. Extreme meiosis, pupil constrictions was observed in both the victim's eyes. Do we have any more information on the poison itself? How about this? I feel like I haven't looked at this at all. Can I like put the poison on this pen? Oh, not the poison. Can I put like the reactant agent on this pen? Let's try to open it up and see if we can do something different with that. Alright, yep. We talked about this before. No ink. Why is there no ink though? That is a good question, but let me see. Is there anything else I can observe on this pen? I feel like this pen might be the key to answering our questions. It doesn't seem like I have a chance there. How about this poison? We already observed that and everything about it. Oh, like the reagent. I feel like I haven't used this at all. Can I look at this again? Is there anything new that I can observe? Because I just feel like it feels very strange. Following a lecture, Yumei Sasaki-san on 11 August, it's come to light that a very disturbing incident took place. Deadly poison being secretly developed at University Forensics was stolen. Even the smallest amount entering the body enter via the mouth or via a wound from a poison-laced blade would prove fatal in minutes. Current methods cannot detect the newly developed chemical. The university would have been consulted. Onset of symptoms occur within minutes, starting with impaired breathing and ending with acute contractions of the pupils prior to death. Such symptoms will be suggestive of this toxin. It's apparently an entirely new synthesis of alkaloids. I don't know. I don't know for sure what could help me on this. A newspaper containing an article about discussion between my father and Sasaki. The debate became quite spirited. An article based on information gleaned from eavesdropping. Alright, I might just have to listen to what he says again. I stabbed the English woman, and it's very fact that proves I'm innocent. Because why would I bother to stab the woman if I'd already poisoned her? When I heard the student girl and the pompous English murderer arguing, it got my gout. There's nothing to reductive was. We just stumbled up with stolen poison. The point is, if you poison someone, there'd be no reason to then go and stab the person as well. I don't know. I'm blah blah. I'm a bit stumped on this last one. So let me try and throw like a curveball and see if I can present just this article and see if something happens.
Objection!
Oh, music stopped, so that means something did happen. Well, I can think of one reason. What? But before I explain, I'd like you to confirm something for the court. Did you glean all the information for this newspaper article from what you overheard outside the hut?
Of course he did. There would be no reason of that. After all, when we were all in the laboratory again, all we were told is that it was a terrible toxin.
There's one more important fact to consider. According to the witness, Membami-san's verbal attack against the victim began as soon as she entered the hut. In other words, it would have been impossible for her to have slipped the poison into Miss Brett's drink.
Objection!
Where are you going with this, counsel? Madame has made it quite clear that he observed every single thing that happened in the beach hut. If the defendant had somehow found an opportunity, a man would have seen it.
Which means that Miss Brett couldn't have embedded the poison whilst the defendant was present. In fact, it must have been administered to her before Membami-san entered the hut. Yes, that is very articulately put.
When I walked into the hut, I immediately started to press Miss Brett about the poison. At which point, Minamemo-san overheard some very worrying information. Worrying information? What worrying information? The information which he subsequently included in his newspaper article, namely, that the person was being developed in strict secrecy and that it couldn't be readily obtained.
Absolutely. In fact, that's quite an understatement. The only possible place it could come from is my lab.
And furthermore, anyone conflicted by the poison would exhibit telltale signs in death. The extreme constriction of pupils, yes, is quite stark when you see it. There are other poisons that show similar symptoms, but not among new substances that are undetectable. In other words, it would be clear that the victim's life had been ended by the use of a particular poison, which would reduce the number of suspects to only a handful of people.
Everyone in my laboratory is aware of the unique properties of the toxins we've been developing. None of them would be foolish enough to attempt to use it for nefarious deeds. Membami-san's being no exception.
Therefore, we can conclude that whoever administered the unique poison to the victim was a layperson unaware of its telltale properties. In other words, someone like you, right, and Menamemo. Yeah. It was you who stole the poison from the laboratory that day. It was you who administered it in the unwitting victim. But you quickly realized that it was a terrible mistake. Because the poison caused an unusual symptom and was so traceable. As you listened from afar on the beach hut's thin walls, you learned of these facts. But you already had given the poison to that victim at that point. It was too late. So you hatched a plan to disguise your mistake. A plan that involved stabbing the victim in the back through the reed screen. But what good can that possibly do? Is it obvious, counsel? The plan was to kill Miss Brett before the poison could take effect.
Once in the blood, the poison causes the onset of pupils constriction. But he had hoped to precipitate the victim's death before that happened, didn't he?
Exactly. Because without any revealing signs of new secret poison's use, no one would ever have suspected.
This is extraordinary.
Yes, the effects of the poison meant it would be too easily identified, so the killer had to mask its use, which he attempted to do by plunging a knife into the middle of the victim's back.
Order! Order! The argument presented is sound. The court is satisfied that it warrants consideration. Does the prosecution have a counter-argument it wishes to put forward?
Well, there are a number of, yes, I counter completely.
Objection!
The prosecution evasive response clearly shows that in much of the same way as he nurtures the remnants of his top knot, he is clinging to lost hope. Lost hope! Threw down as that. Ah, you pathetic, useless fallen samurai. Fallen? Who are you calling fallen? I don't need a counter argument. What are you talking about? It should be blatantly obvious. I stole the poison, you say. Gave it to the victim, you say. Stabbed her, you say. Lots of fine theories. But I don't need a counter argument because you don't have an argument yourself. Where's your evidence? Yes, you make it all sound so possible, don't you? But without evidence, it means nothing. Whereas I base my news on facts.
Facts? What do you mean? Explain yourself.
I mean what the professor said earlier in this trial. It's all here in my many memos. Every word, every slip of the tongue, all noted. That's what the Shoyu News is famous for, the power of printed words.
But surely it would be no easy task to steal a highly secret toxin being developed for the governments. Indeed, all visitors of the laboratory are thoroughly searched when they leave the lab. Even if a thief managed to avoid being seen by myself or a colleague, getting the poison would be very difficult. I have a pretty good idea how he did it. How's that then? Blown the whole story? Why? See, I, Right-Hand Menomomo, a mere reporter from the Shoyu News, couldn't possibly have stolen the poison from the professor's laboratory. Don't worry, we got this. I know exactly. Oh, I hope so. I know exactly. But there can't be any question of it. He must have stolen the poison that day. He stole it and used it to kill. And if that's the case, as you've identified, the poison itself is the definitive evidence we need. Because whoever stole it from the laboratory that day is a true culprit here. What's your point, you knowingly handsome country bumpkin? Ooh, Sato's handsome. My point is, there is one way that you, Menememo-san, could have stolen the poison that day. I've heard enough verbal conjecture now, thank you. What the court must show is evidence. What proof do you have that this witness stole the poison on the day in question?
Take that!
Music didn't stop, but maybe that didn't work. Well, let's see. The proof, Your Excellency, is this fountain pen.
A fountain pen? How could that possibly be relevant?
These magical pens somehow seem to have enough ink to write many thousands of kanji characters. I believe they arrived in our country for the first time some 15 years ago now. But I swear by a weasel hair calligraphy brush and nothing else. These newfangled pens are mere fad.
Well, as a forward-thinking man of words, I obviously love my fountain pen. Suck up a scooping of sculptured ink, and one work is awash with words and blink of an eye.
That's right. Fountain pens have a small reservoir in the barrel, into which the ink is sucked up through the nib of the pen in order to write with later. What does all this talking of sucking up ink have? And just as it's possible to suck up ink into the reservoir, it's quite possible to eject it through the nib again, of course.
My word, can this really be?
Well, Menememo-san, when you saw the deadly poison before your eyes in the laboratory that day, you used the fountain pen, your very lifeblood, to steal some of it, didn't you? By siphoning the poison through the nib and into the pen's reservoir.
Objection!
Most absurdity, that never happened. True, we've heard that there were procedures in place to prevent thefts like this from the laboratory. But would anyone have thought to look inside a fountain pen of all places?
No. I'm a little ashamed to say that for fear of offending our guests, such a detailed search would not have been conducted. Well, this is quite startling, I must say.
Remind the court that this pen was found in the clutches of the victim when she died. In other words, it was dropped at the scene by Minimosa. The crucial question is, when exactly was the pen dropped?
Are you suggesting?
The nature of the conclusion is that in your haste to act whilst the victim was distracted for a moment, you dropped the pen after you emptied the poison into her glass. Look, there can be a number of alternate explanations. For example, the witness could have been using the pen to write down details for the conversation with the victim. And when shocked by one of her outrageous answers, the pen fell in his quivering hand. No, that can't be. If it was, how do you explain why the pen was devoid of ink? What? As you can see for yourself and examine the evidence, there would appear no ink present in the reservoir. What newspaper reporter goes to interview someone with nothing in his pen? No, the pen was dropped after the poison was filled in its reservoir and been emptied into the victim's glass.
Witness, what do you have to say in your defense?
So this is how your modern justice system works, is it? So what if the pen in my pen runs dry? What if the pen snaps? I can always claw my way back into the game. I have plenty in reserve. Ah! He just threw pencils. You claim I sucked the poison up into my pen? What wild speculation, nothing more. If you thought you could bring down a fine, upstanding citizen with a trick like that, think again. It looks as though it's going to take one final decisive blow to finish this matter. As I see it, the situation is now very simple. It rests upon whether or not the witness did indeed steal the poison on the day in question. And therefore, it all depends upon whether or not the defense can prove that he did with evidence. Such evidence could possibly exist. Could not possibly exist. Minimosa, this is how a modern justice system works. What? In the courtroom, evidence is everything. Something you would do well to remember. Because we are well past the point of speculation at this stage, I assure you.
Well then, I call upon the defense to show evidence.
I accidentally skipped that. That is it then. This will be the final piece of puzzle. The defense can prove by means of this item that it was the witness's pen that was used to steal the poison.
Take that!
Counsel, what is this bottle?
This bottle contains a unique chemical reagent that can identify the poison in question.
Yes, that poison is an entirely new synthesis of alkaloids developed by my colleagues and I. It would be impossible to detect traces of it by any other means.
Or from another perspective. Simply, with this chemical reagent, anybody at all could check for traces of the poison. A reagent? What? One drop of the contents of this bottle on the tip of your fountain pen, Minimosa, is all it will take to solve this case beyond all reasonable doubt. No, you can't. I won't. Your crimes are bad enough, but at least know when it's time to admit defeat. Your Excellency, the defense requests permission to carry out the test on the fountain pen at once. Throwing his camera. This isn't my fault. The Empire Drum Agent trying to hold the high-head citizen nation. I took my arms in the form of a mighty pen. I can't read all this as fast. Oh. Susato, with me. I'm here. Oh my gosh. Did I do it right? That was a Susato takedown, wasn't it? Not quite. That was a Ryotaro takedown. Amazing. The instant the first drop of reagent touched the nib of the fountain pen, it was clear to everyone present. When I saw it there in the lab, the poison, the devil got a hold of me and I decided to do it without a whim. I excused myself and emptied all the ink down the sink in the bathroom, washing the reservoir out carefully. And then you waited for an opportunity to suck up some of the poison, didn't you? Into the fountain pen. Yes, that's right. Answer me one thing, Menamemo-san. Why did you steal it? For what purpose? Isn't it obvious? To find out what it was made of and expose it on the article. I mean, it was a secret project after all, too juicy for a journal like me to pass up. Then why did the Englishwoman end up dead? I went into that hunt intending to quiz her on the situation, that's all, as a reporter. A known killer enjoying full freedom, evading justice by leaving the country. I told her what I thought about it. And she just laughed in my face. Oh, what's this? A fair Eastern caveman purporting to practice journalism? Really, you must learn the difference between reporting and listening at doorways, you ignorant plebeian. What did you call me? This country, with its pretentious to a justice system, to a free press, it's really depressing. You see our superior ways in the West, yet you lack the mental capacity to emulate. Get out of here, you oaf. Get out and crawl into the cave you came from. Oof, harsh words. Then that's when I remembered about the deadly poison I happened to have in my pen at the time. What a terrible tale. In my heat, I knew I should just get out of there as quickly as possible, but I couldn't. I couldn't let her get away with what she'd done, when she clearly had no remorse at all. I suppose it was my journal spirit, getting all fired up. And I believe that's the end of that. I'd like to ask you something. Yes? You often talk about justice. But surely as a journalist, you could have used other means to deliver the justice you sought. There's no justice in the press. Sorry? After the trial 9 months ago, I kept digging and digging to find out what happened in that courtroom. And finally, I discovered the truth. It was a cover-up. That's what it was. A cover-up? What do you mean? I would remind you of your position, witness. Be careful what you say. Oh, come on. Doesn't it strike you as strange? We're suddenly not allowed to convict a foreign national consular jurisdiction. Should never have come into it. And yet that puffed-up Englishwoman was going to sail away into the sunset a free woman? The only possible explanation is that behind the scenes, some deal had gone down between British and Japan. What sort of deal? I'd done my research, dug up all the dirt. It was all ready to be published. And you know what happened? The editor just tore up the article. He came under the pressure from the government, you mean? If our government was going to let criminals walk free, if they were going to crush the free press, then what choice do I have but to see that the justice is done myself? Let's not forget, Menamemo-san, that you committed murder yourself, and you tried to blame the defendant at the door. I'm sorry, but you're no better than Giselle Brett. What? The truth is, you have no right to talk about justice at all. I suppose... It would appear that we have reached the conclusion to this trial at last. Counsel for the defense, Ryutaro Naruhodo. Oh. Yes. Yes, sorry, Excellency. Just musing in a manly way here. It's almost unbelievable that this is your first experience of the Supreme Court. It was an excellent performance.
In truth, it was very much reminded of your cousin's exploits.
Oh, now Ryunosuke, you mean?
The way he handled the trial 9 months ago and the way he handled this one. It gives me hopes that we are generally entering a new era of justice in this land.
It's very flattering, Your Excellency.
Hearing the defense you put forward today made me feel most keenly that the future of the justice system will be forged by you and your contemporaries.
Thank you.
So, Prosecutor Aichi, do you have any final thoughts?
He looks ready to commit seppuku. But Prosecutor Arichi? I, Taketsuchi of the Uichi clan, have been bested by a Kalo youth not once now, but twice. If there was any shred of former self left, it has withered and died here today. Your journey to cultural enlightenment sure took a while, didn't it? Silence! Rather than living on in shame, I will end it all now with this play. For that is the true path of Uichiism. Uichiism?
One hopes that the only way in which he will be modeling himself after the witness.
Sprig of my top knot, the time is right for farewell. Hope is lost forever. Taketsuichi. Oh my gosh. What sad, sad scene. So pitiful. So sad. Everyone paying respects to the fallen hair. Literally everybody. Oh man. What a first trial. What do we have? Like 4 more cases or chapters left after this one? Who knows? Another 70 parts? Anyone?
Now, in regard of the defendant Raymond Bobby-son.
Yes, Your Excellency.
I reach my final verdict. I hereby find you not guilty.
Woo! Let's see, we're going over a bit, but I guess we should just just see how this chapter ends.
Court is adjourned.
I don't know, maybe like a 10 and 15 minute more of talking. That's usually what happens at the end. 13th August, 2:38 p.m. Supreme Court of Judicature, Defendant's Antechamber 3. It's over. My heart is still pounding my chest though. It's all I can do. Just stay standing. Look at that sweet outfit we have him in. Lawyers have such great responsibility, such a great burden to bear. Don't they, Naruto-san? Susato! Thank you so much. You were so dashing in there. Hey, father. Honestly, I'm so touched by everything you've... Oh no, I'm going to cry. It wasn't easy, but together we made it. I was on the verge of tears at the end too. The only reason I'm still here is because of you. Oh no, I can't take all the credit. It took courage to tell the truth in there. So, you did wonderfully, Ray. So I would have to say that the congratulations belong to you. Susato, don't be so standoffish. Sorry? We're friends, equals, and the trial's over, so no more of this formal super humility nonsense. It's time to celebrate with swagger, to throw caution to the wind. Caution to what? I'm the great defense lawyer Ryotaro Naruto, and I'm taking you out for a milk bar tomorrow. Or something. Right, I see. I'll think about it, Ray. At any rate, we really knocked the wind out of the horrid man, and it felt so good. Yes, it was satisfying. It really was. Isn't there anybody else we could throw together?
I hope you're not looking at me, Ray.
Oh my goodness, no, of course not, there it is at last, Ray's lovely smile.
You fought for your friend to the very last. As your father, I'm extremely proud of you. Defense attorney Ryotaro Naruto.
Thank you. I couldn't have done it without your help. Anyway, it's time to bid farewell to Ryotaro, I think. I shall miss him in a way, but it's back to Susato Mikotoba now. I'll never see him again then. What a terrible shame. Oh, she's pretty into it. What? Oh.
Whoa, what is happening?
Sasaki and Inspector Osanaga, I do hope you've been keeping well. Is that really you? Yes, I had changed my appearance for, well, obvious reasons, I hope. But it's me. Susato Mikotoba.
Don't. So dashing, so divine.
Everyone's into this.
No. Doubly dashing, yes. And devilishly divine. Just look at you. I had no idea, Mr. Sato-san Esquire, that you were locum student Naruto Esquire's cousin.
Okay, no, he must have been it.
Astonishingly astounding ace attorney.
He said the thing. He said the thing. Poor Sasaki-san, so confused. I still remember the first time I met him. He was in prison cell in London. What an extraordinary conundrum it was that unwitting student from Japan found himself embroiled. But after Naruto's skillful defense at the Old Bailey, Sasaki-san was free to return to Japan. And now he seems to have earned himself great fame as an author. I'm stunned. That's a truly impressive disguise. Even I had no idea. And I'm a chief inspector at the police bureau who came up with Mr. Turtle, no less. I'm not sure you should be admitting to that, Inspector. Amazing. You're a woman of many faces, I see. Just two, really, and this was a once-in-a-lifetime event, I hope. Oh, I'm not a patch on you, though, Inspector. Well, I am a professional, of course. I do worry about Inspector Hosonaga sometimes. I really do. 9 months ago, when he appeared here at the Supreme Court to testify, he was undercover disguised as a head waiter of the restaurant. And then on the steamship to Great Britain, of course, disguised as a sailor to keep us safe on the journey. Why is every person he watches over just ends up dying? Though, that didn't help you, did it, Kazuma-sama? No, it didn't. So sad. From my perspective, I had to admit that I mixed feelings about all this. I mean, now the truth had been forever lost.
What do you mean?
I'm talking about the murder that the Englishwoman committed at the end of last year.
Oh yes, it was an English doctor she killed, and I understand. Dr. John H. Wilson, yes, the man I invited to Japan personally.
The mystery is, why did she kill him? And now the culprit herself is dead. We'll probably never know the answer. On the voyage to Great Britain, we had a most unexpected encounter with Mr. Sherlock Sholmes, the great detective, I mean. Yes, I remember Mr. Sholmes well, of course.
Ah, my arch nemesis, how lightly you utter his name.
Well, according to the stories published about him in the Adventures of Sherlock Sholmes, the detective once had a partner who helped him solve crimes, a best friend. And that man was an exceptional doctor of medicine by the name of John H. Wilson. What? Dr. Wilson? I just can't believe that it's a coincidence.
I think that the English doctor of medicine killed him here. I think the English doctor of medicine killed here in Japan 9 months ago.
Oh, I read that with a completely wrong voice. Must have been the friend of the partner, Mr. Sholmes. And if that's really true, then the poor girl won't ever see her beloved father again.
As you know, I traveled to Great Britain once myself to study. It was around the time you were born.
Yes, grandmother told me about it.
Returning to Japan, I took up my professorship at the Imperial Yume University. But I almost served another role as an advisor to the government on diplomatic affairs.
Yes, I was aware of that as well.
In that case, I'm sure you understand that there are some confidential matters I cannot divulge to you.
Can you tell me just one thing? Why did you summon me back to Japan? It's been 2 months now since I've returned. When I left England, it was because an urgent telegram had arrived from Japan. It said that you had collapsed with a high fever and you were growing weaker by the day. Well, where did you hear that news from? That's what I'd like to know, because after a long sea voyage, I found you fine in health, Father. Was there something in Great Britain that you preserved might be inconvenience me in some way or harm me? That's really the only explanation I could think of.
Dear me, you reserved your most cutting glares for your father. I'm sorry, my dear, simply I can't...
This guy somehow made his way out. Memo-san? So, one throw wasn't enough for you.
I've got one last thing to say before they take me away, Professor. Me? I know the truth. I know you had hand in what went on. In that visiting student's fate.
Visiting student? Giselle Brett, you mean?
No, not her. The student of law who left for Great Britain 8 months ago.
What, student of law? He must mean Kazuma-sama. What are you talking about? What does any of this have to do with Kazuma-sama?
Nobody here in Japan knows about it. They don't know that the guy never made it to England, that he died on the steamship, and that he'll never... Oh.
The judge.
Well, I didn't expect to find him in here. What were the officers playing at? Terribly sorry, Your Excellency.
This is the first time I've seen him outside that courtroom.
I was just coming to tell you that the rickshaws arrived, Eugene, and it's a good job I came by. Thank you for dealing with him, and I'll be there shortly.
Oh, Your Excellency.
The trial's over. I'm not Your Excellency anymore. Merely your father's friend, Seishiro Jigoku. And may I say that last saw you, you seem to have taken on more dashing appearance. Susato?
Did you know all along from the start of its trial?
A judge sees everything, Susato. I couldn't let you take the risk. If Seishiro here hadn't known, then he'd recognize you. So I had a word on his ear beforehand as a old friend. So, Seishiro, shall we? Yes, having ruled on the case, then we now have various diplomatic issues to address.
Before you go, Father.
Sorry, my dear. I shall have to return to our early conversation at a later date. But well done again, both of you. You did admirably.
Oh, thank you very much.
What did you think of my Seishiro sling, eh? It's been a while since I sent a man flying like that.
Whatever could Father be hiding from me? About Giselle Brett and about Wilson. And now it seems, according to the reporter, about Kazuma-sama. All these secrets, one after the other. I'm going to bring this up in my father sometime when nobody else is around. I really hope we get everything solved at the end.
Mr. Mikatoba, Esquire, could I have a word?
Oh yes, of course, Soseki-san. What is it?
I think perhaps it could be fate that we're meeting again like this now. You see, there's something I need to tell you.
Oh.
I believe that it may be related to the reason why your father summoned you back to England.
This I have to hear. Please, Soseki-san, tell me at once.
I will. As you know, my time in England was terrible. Cursed, I have no doubts. Such awful things I was embroiled in. Thank goodness, Lokomzu Naruto-san and Squall stepped in. After he secured my freedom, couldn't wait to get on the back of the ship here to my homeland. Having arrived in Japan, I submitted a report about my experiences to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The next thing I knew, I had a visitor. It was your father, Professor Mikatoba. He wanted to ask me all sorts of things about my report.
My father?
He seemed to be especially taken with a particular part of the report. Anyway, he left eventually, having thoroughly quizzed me. But it was that very next day that he sent a telegram to you asking you to return to Japan. What was it then, the particular part my father was interested in? I don't really know. But do you remember those 2 terrible cases I was caught up in? Of course, I could never forget. Your father is to concern himself mainly with the second case. Second case, you mean? The one Mr. Sholmes forbade any of us to talk about it in the public. Which is why the only case involving you that any member of the public is aware of is the first. Well, I don't care. I don't have to listen to what the dastardly detective says. Anyway, the point is, it seems that case somehow holds the key to all the curious unanswered questions. The horrific, hideous, heinous case, the case of the haunted lodgings.
Haunted lodgings. That case somehow caused my father to summon me back upon Japan. I thought that whole business was over, but it seems I was wrong. Perhaps that was only a start. Perhaps the story is not yet told. Oh, is that the end of this part? Seems it is.
So, the mystery of that English woman's death is solved, thank goodness. And having stood in the Supreme Court now, I think I can comprehend a little better. How you must be feeling as you fight for people's freedom in a foreign land, Naruhodo-san. But actually, I'm writing to you today because of another matter. I met Soseki-san and we talked about that second case he was involved in. Father has said nothing to me, but I feel certain of it. That case holds the key to some great unsolved mystery. My notes on the case should still be in the office, tucked away at the back of the shelves on the left. Perhaps you might like to look over them again. Today, for the first time this year, it feels as though summer has arrived. The sky is a brilliant blue. It makes me long to see you again. Yours, Susato.
Alright, and that there is the end of our first chapter in the Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve. Ooh, I'm looking forward to doing the rest of this game. Definitely gonna keep trucking and powering through this. So, thank you all so much for watching. Remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, and until then, I will see you all later. Goodbye.